Hey everyone, it's me, Hunter, and I'm coming back with another Thomas the Tank Engine character build and review. I had a lot of fun making this model, Edward the number 2 engine. He's become my favorite character, and the as I've gotten back into Thomas and steam engines in general, Edward has become probably my favorite character from the series. Old, wise, knowledgeable, a really simple design. I don't know why. I always liked his design, having only, the two wheels with the coupling rod, on one side, really four, I know, total. But just something about him always stood out to me, just his design, He almost didn't look like a real locomotive. Kind of, because every time you've seen a locomotive, they almost always have, if they're a tender engine, they have 3 drive wheels, or 6, drive wheels or more. So whenever I looked at Edward, I always thought it was interesting. I know he's kind of supposed to be this smaller than James, as a mixed traffic engine, but it always stood out to me. And as I get older and kind of develop my preference and what I like to see in characters, Edward has become my favorite. So building this model has been a lot of fun, and I've been really pushing to get him done. Believe it or not, though, when I came across the last of the parts I need to do Edward and Gordon, I pushed to get Gordon's boiler done first because Gordon took up more parts. So luckily I had enough parts left over to finish Edward. We'll really actually start and then complete Edward, all in all. But I think it was a very fun experience to build. I only have one complaint about the whole model, and we'll get to that when I kind of talk more about the cab. But let's go ahead and turn Edward so we can look at the front. He's got a very simple face. I've gone through and tried to, make every face different. Unfortunately, with Lego, you only have so many parts available, which in a way isn't the issue. The issue is making the same size face and making everyone look different. I was going to use a cheese wedge for his nose, but then I kind of realized, or as I was developing Donald and Douglas, keeping Edward in mind, I found the cheese wedge worked a lot better for the twins, so I'm like, okay, I got to do something different for Edward. And while I was working on one of my narrow gauge engines, I came across this idea, and since I used a different face on the narrow gauge engine, and because it's a narrow gauge engine, you won't really see them mixed or close by each other often, I went ahead and used the exact same face design. On one of them, I might end up changing to where the jumper brick down at the bottom actually comes out more. Like my James model, it's actually, where on this model, Edward has the jumper plate directly attached to the, let me see if I can take it off. I probably won't be able to. Let me turn it. It's on a black 4x4 round plate, you can see here, where the jumper plate's directly attached to this. On my James model, there's actually a plate between the two, which makes his the nose and everything come up to the same level as the cheeks, which I've considered doing, but I really don't even like it on James, and I might go back and change it. I like how everything else is sitting in where the cheeks stand out. I just like the way these faces are designed. So that's kind of where the face design came from. It took me a little longer because after a while, once you create more than probably 4 different engines, you got to come up with more faces, designs, which intend to get more complicated or more complex or a little different. I almost decided to build it the same exact face as Lennox, the last locomotive I shared. But again, they're brothers. And the story I have kind of created for Lennox, they're brothers. They're not twins. So I needed to make sure I got a different nose. Kind of going back to more of the actual locomotive, I'll turn them to the side. I went ahead and did different buffer beams in the back, and then just finishing off this as well in the back. Not necessarily the buffer beam, but the end of the frame. I like this a lot better. It looks extremely accurate, in my opinion. I know I got a lot of comments when I did James, how I left the Hogwarts Express, how it kind of has some slope pieces in here. I left those on there, not really thinking, not really looking into that part of James's build and body, if I'm being honest. So when I went back and I looked at James, I saw that. I made the change on James. I made the change, or when I built Edward, I kept that in mind. And I went ahead and changed the buffer beam up front, like I was just saying a couple seconds ago. Instead of just trying to, hey, here's the Hogwarts Express model, here's how they wanted to attach their buffers, I'm just going to use that base work and build from that. Instead, I scrapped it all, and I went ahead and designed my own buffer beam, which I think looks very nice, very accurate. We'll go ahead and we'll talk about the dome and the cab. I'll take the smoke off. The dome is the exact same build as Thomas's dome. It'll be a brick and then a round 2x2 jumper plate and then the dish in blue. When we get back to the cab here, my problem is, like I was saying earlier, is with the cab. The cab's a little too tall. If you look at them kind of from the front, and if you look at like an actual image of Edward, really all the tender engines have a lower cab profile, which, you know, makes sense, smart, aerodynamic. But when I was doing Edward, I wanted this whistle design. This was my dead set whistle design, and I didn't want to change it. So I made everything work with the whistle. So that being said, the cab is about a plate, maybe 2 plates taller than what I would like, but it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look atrocious. Like when you talk about it and you think about it, it really stands out. But at the end of the day, if I walk by and I look at Edward on display, I really don't notice it that much. And I don't think anyone, or not a lot of people, would notice. At least I don't think general fans would notice. Maybe some hardcore fans of Edward or Thomas the Tank Engine would notice, but I don't think at a passing glance or a general viewing audience they're going to know, and it doesn't look crazy unproportional. I don't know if we continue on. The tender is just like James and Lennox. Obviously, we have a number 2 on there for Edward. He is the number 2 engine. Once again, this sticker comes from the same sticker book as I got Thomas's number. I'll also be getting Percy, Henry's, and Gordon's from there. I'm going to try to get the twins. I'm going to try to get James's. The issue is with James already has a sticker on there, so I got to either peel the sticker off or rebuild James's tender entirely, which I don't want to do. Looking at the back, you know, it's just the back of the tender. I kept going back and forth on adding in the red lamp. In the CGI era, and I think some episodes of the late model era, you have his red lamp. In the very early classical era, you did not. And I'm trying my best to base the original, 5 to 10 characters from the original classic model, which is what I kind of grew up on. So that's why I chose not to add in the lamp. I'm not going to show you a look at the inside of the cab. If you own the Hogwarts Express, or even if I think you watch my James review, I go into the cab, and Edward, and really any engine like Donald and Douglas that just pretty much take the base of the Hogwarts Express. I don't change the interior. Some of my more custom engines like Henry, Gordon, Thomas, I'll probably at some point do like a inside video. So like I'll do like an inside the cab video for all my completely custom built engines. Looking at Edward on the other side, same thing, obviously, except you can see his lamp over here. The handrails were nicely done. I know they probably should come out to here, but a big thing is I wanted to keep Lennox and Edward somewhat similar. With Lennox, I didn't have the part I needed to extend the handrail all the way out to the edge of the smoke box. And to be honest, I don't mind it. It looks nice. It kind of gives my own personal flair on the build, and I just really enjoy it. So there you have it. That's Edward, the Northwestern Railway's number 2 engine. I had a lot of fun building this model. I tried to keep it quick, but still show you everything and talk about the stuff I felt important. Honestly, the biggest challenge for this build was getting the tender done. Where James and Donald Douglas, I could use the Lego wheels, the small Lego wheels. I had to go out and buy the blue wheels for Edward, which means I had to I had to use an even brick to space an odd number of wheels on an odd sized tender. Because all my tenders are actually 7, 8, 9. Sorry, I was looking up here thinking 7, but 9 bricks long. Which really means if you use, the wheels like you get in the cargo train, you can put 3 on there, no problem. When you're kind of doing your own custom model, you got to think about it. But that's it. That's the only kind of complicated part of this whole build. I want to thank you all for watching. While you can, please comment. Let me know if you want to see a comparison video between Lennox and Edward. If I get this out and there's no comments available, expect one. It won't be a long video. I'll try to keep it under 5 minutes. But I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you're enjoying these steam engines. I'm going to try my best, too, for my kind of hardcore fan, long-term fans to get some more Star Wars out for you. So once again, while you can, please rate, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in my next video.